Greetings, Mech Warriors, and welcome to This Week in Comp for the week of October 14th, 2024. This past week saw 2 more teams go home, leaving us with 6 remaining competitors for the top prize in this year's tournament. But before we look at the details, let's take a look at some clips. First up in the clips, we've got The Climb. This is submitted by Hat Trick. Now, Mantra, this is Dark Sea Corsairs versus Mantra. Now, Mantra is known for some wild plays. This tournament, we have seen them hang out around the outside, set some traps, set some weird trap positions in the invitationals. But here we've got some interesting pathing. Now the top of Bear Claw is supposed to be off limits, but here we see Winter's Rigor in the Xe just really making the effort to get up there. So we're gonna spend, well, we've probably been about 20 seconds or so right now. I didn't look at the clock at the beginning, but we are now on top of the ice. Check out this pathing, folks. Now, there's another question as to why. What are we gaining here? There's some speculation that maybe we're going for Sigma Overwatch, which is a big commitment, committing an Xe to just an Overwatch position here. But it could work. That being said, we see Winter's Rigor just continuing on, and we're going to take a slight right turn here and off the edge. A very puzzling maneuver here. I'm wondering if Winter's Rigor just didn't stop in time. But yeah, take a note of that. Now, next up, we have Andalard's Last Stand. We see Andy coming in here for Terra. Take a look at the caps. We have the 228 Reapers with a significant lead here. Andalard takes out the Flea 19 Arnathius and gets away really cleanly. Honestly, it was a really beautiful pick, but he goes back for more. Camera comes back. Andy takes out Yondu here, and we've got Noble Rat trying to take the point, and Andy saying absolutely not. We have this cap lead. We have worked so hard for it and going to just stall it out. This is absolutely wonderful play by Andalard. We see Ash coming in here with the Stone Rhino to support, getting some hits on Andalard here, but Andy just staying put and denying this cap with Noble Rat, and there we go, finally goes down. And 228 will go on to win that one. Next up, we've got Bullying Basalt, Mantra versus DSC on Terra. And here we see Basalt just holding off 3 of the Mantra pack here. We've got, what are we looking at? Evan Carlisle in the Stone Rhino and a couple others. And they're just laying into Basalt, down to 25%, holding on as long as he could, down to 17% at the end. Well held, Basalt. All right, next up, we've got the Revenants versus the Potato Carry Society. Now, the Revenants are down in the cast very significantly. They need to make something happen, and you can see they are about to. Everyone is off the wall and in the center, and here goes Cougar with the Bud Light pick. That is going to kick this off. We've got Rabid Squirrel pushing up in the Mistlinks a little with no real help. Is going to go down here. We get Patchy here in the Viper trying to help as well. Ends up getting legged for their trouble. Good Try goes down in the Osiris. Valkyr escapes down. We've got a little fight on the left-hand side. Patchy finally goes down. We've got 4 more mechs to go. There goes Heaven Warrior. There goes Extra Better. There goes Valkyr, his own slave on the last. And there we go. That was so fast and beautifully done by the Revenants. And here's what we got for all that action. Today, let's start with the winners bracket. Mantra and the Dark Sea Corsairs duked it out, which saw the Corsairs sailing to victory 3-0. Shortly after that, Fjord Visigoths faced off against Vigilance, which saw Vigilance taking that match also 3-0. Mantra and the Visigoths were the first and second seeds in this tournament due to their performance in the player-run tournaments all year and the subsequent participation in the invitationals. They now face elimination with each additional match in the losers bracket. Speaking of which, last week the 10th Lyran Guards defeated the Potato Carry Society 3-0 and will be going up against the Visigoths this week, while the Blanner Observe Battalion fell to the 228 Reapers 3-1. 228 will be going up against Mantra this coming week. And now, let's take a look at some stats. We'll start with the Darksea Corsairs. I think most notably we see that they have continued their tactic of not using heavy mechs, which indicates their preference for mobility overall. But we can also see that they've brought 3 mediums for every drop, indicating that their wolf packs will focus more on armor and weapons than light mobility. So far they are undefeated, but also we see they've only played on Bearclaw, HPG, and Terra Therma for all of their matches. Coincidence or strategy? Hopefully we'll gain some insight this weekend. Taking a look at their opponents, we see that while they favor the assault class every match, there's also the inclusion of some heavies, perhaps showing a tendency for more dispersal of their firepower across the battlefield. Lights and mediums are evenly placed, showing some diversity in their wolf pack as well. Notably, they do have a 2-kill advantage on average kills per drop over DSC, so that may indicate that Vile are the more deadly. Moving on to the elimination matches, the Visigoths are showing some diversity in their weight distribution. The Shadowcat still reigns supreme, but we do also see quite a bit of Osiris use in that wolf pack. Since we have a lot of data, relatively speaking, on Visigoths, I want to focus a bit on their map stats. Viridian Bog is by far their best map with a 75% win rate, followed up by Bearclaw with 60%. They do seem to struggle a bit with Terra though, so we'll see if their opponents this week can take advantage of that. Speaking of their opponents, the Revenants, we see them bucking the trend. Their most used mech is the Viper, and we don't even see the Shadowcat until the 4th place, tied with the Flea. To me, this suggests that they favor early eyeball scouting and vertical positions. They seem to favor medium mechs over lights in their wolf pack based on this quick look, but I think that once we take a deeper look, we'll see a little bit of a different story. We see the Blackjack being their 3rd most popular mech, being played in 2/3 of their drops, so I think it more likely that they have a roughly even distribution between mediums and lights in their pack, with a mobile trader floating around augmenting their assault trading line. Frozen is their strongest map for sure, but the rest of them are pretty close. Looking at Terra, I can't quite say that it's their weakest per se since they've only had 1 drop on it, but it does stand out as the only map that they haven't won on. Looking ahead to the next match, Mantra seems in contrast particularly strong on Terra. Interestingly, the weakest map they have are a 1-to-1 win-loss rate. If I were 228, I'd take note on that. Looking at other trends, they seem to favor mediums, but as with the Revenants, I think we've seen some trade line augmentation and vertical positions. Interestingly enough, with this we also see them not using the Shadowcat as much as other teams, instead favoring the Viper. As I look at these stats, I'm rooting for some Revenant versus Mantra action to come because I'd like to see how these teams stack up with their similar preferences. And finally, let's take a look at the 228 Reapers. Here we see them also eschewing the Shadowcat a little bit. Creeping up on the leaderboard of favored mechs is the Phoenix Hawk in their case, which we haven't seen on anyone else's list. With their packs, they slightly favor medium, so take that as you will. Looking at their maps, we see an interesting picture. They're undefeated on both Bearclaw and Terra. Also HPG, but that's only 1 match, so take that with a grain of salt. Frozen is the only map that they haven't won on, but also that's only 1 match, so we'll see how these progress as they go. To me, this one's a bit tough to read. I'd say they have a firm grasp on Terra and Bearclaw, but there hasn't really been a repeat outcome on any other map. Not that we're dealing with particularly statistically significant sample size, try saying that 5 times fast, on any of the teams here, but this one seems like there's more data needed to draw conclusions. And now, as promised last week, let's take a look at some overall stats. As hinted at last week, the Shadowcat is still dominant in overall picks, but the Stone Rhino has eked out the Viper from last week. The match duration average is also interesting. You can kind of see who can hold up in a trade fight, but also keep in mind that with a sample size this small, you have to account for who their opponents were. Of particular interest, I think, is the mech usage by tonnage. This graph is broken down by wins and losses. It looks mostly like a mirror, which speaks to the existence of a meta that all these teams are following, particularly in assaults heavy and heavy medium mechs. But there's a couple subtle differences out there that I think might be worth noting. Teams that won took 20-ton mechs more than those that lost, and also 35-ton mechs, while teams that lost brought more mechs in the 25 to 30-ton range. This might suggest there's a slight advantage to min-maxing lights that you bring. Granted, there's a lot of variance in the variants and their functions, so that might be where the difference is, but I think it worth some deeper investigation by those smarter than I. Leave your observations in the comments and we'll take a look at them next week if there are any. And now, as usual, a look at the prize pool. We're at $35,893 US. That'll amount to almost $2,000 for each pilot of the winning team. Let's see if we can push this a little more to reward those pilots for their effort and time a little more. This week, let's push for the Retro 2022 pack. While the Warhorn isn't my personal favorite, the Stalker is a very strong mech, and those pinks and purples are deliciously vibrant and stylish. The decals are also fantastic, and let's not forget the additional MC C-Bills mech bays, and if you haven't gotten a tournament supporter pack yet this year, the 2024 decals and the C-Bill boost for the next 6 months or so, which does stack with the C-Bill boost from the mech, premium time, and any C-Bill boosting cockpit items you may have lying around. With all of last week out of the way, let's take a look at this week upcoming. Starting off the weekend, we have Mantra versus the 228 Reapers. The loser of this match will be eliminated. Directly following that match will be the Dark Sea Corsairs versus Vigilance. This is the winner's bracket final match. As such, the winner will move on to the grand finals, and the loser will be set in the loser's bracket final to see if they can stave off elimination and get themselves back into contention for the grand finals. 5 hours after that will be the Fjord Visigoths versus the Revenants. This is also an elimination match. We've got some very high stake matches this weekend, so be sure to tune in. As always, if you want to see the schedule in your local time, please click on the tournament link in the description. There is a toggle in the upper right-hand corner that will flip between your local time and UTC, which just makes your scheduling a little bit easier. Also, don't forget that all matches will be streamed on MWO Leagues 2 on Twitch, so you can see both casters' points of view. And that'll do it for this week in Comp. As always, thank you for watching. I'm Ivor, and I hope to see you on the field.